We have our Israel theme in the background. And let's see that we are connected. And we are connecting. Okay, very good. Okay, Jeff, how you doing? Okay, give ourselves a few more minutes. We'll actually start. This Shabbat Yom HaAtzmaut. There we go.
Sorry about that.
Good. That was Jeff. How you
Sorry
doing?
about that.
I'm just putting everything up on the screen. Why is it all showing here? I don't know. Okay, there we go. So I set this up so you can see a street scene in Israel. Not from this year for sure yet. Soon,
Oh,
though.
yeah.
People are actually allowed now to go out without masks. They announced it starting this year. So the celebrations are a little bit still distanced this year, but certainly much better than last year because enough of the population has been vaccinated. They have herd immunity. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, thank you. How are the numbers? Are they way down?
Oh, yeah. Very good. The numbers are very good. The transmission rate is very good. Everything overall is working the way it should. And that's what we're looking for.
Oh, that's good news. I hope it happens here too.
Yeah, the United States is actually, for all the confusion that happened, the United States has been doing well compared to, for example, the Europeans. I always like to think, the Europeans, you like to think of them as being so well organized, having their European Union and the parliament in Belgium and so on, and they can't get anything done. That's really a problem that they have. So we should appreciate that we are able to do things. You may not be aware of it, but we are. I see that Bill and Marcelo are coming on board. Shabbat Shalom and welcome to you. Good, my Bill. How you doing, Bill?
Good. How are you?
Thank God. Corey, is doing fine?
Yeah. She's doing really well. We're a little stressed with wedding planning, but
Oh, but it's a good reason.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, there's positive stress and negative stress. So we need positive stress in our lives, no negative stress. Exactly. And Joe is with us. Okay, on this Shabbat morning, we dedicate ourselves to Yom HaAtzmaut, Israel Independence Day. Today is actually Hey B'Iyar, the 5th of Iyar, the technical date on the Hebrew calendar of independence. In Israel, they celebrate it on Thursday because you move the holiday forward so you can do all the festivities and so on. So you don't want to do it on Friday because you're busy preparing for Shabbat. So you move it to Thursday. Everybody is happy and dancing. And then they get Friday off anyway. So they get 2 days in a row, plus Shabbat's a long weekend for Israelis and a happy weekend. Okay, we've got more people coming on board. Rachel, I'm going to start off with my favorite Israeli cantor here. It is Cantor Shai Abramson of the Israel Defense Forces, the rabbinical choir. And Elohai Neshama, the opening of the service, my Lord. So you pure.
אלוקיי נשמה שנתת בי, אוי 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 טהורה היא, אוי אוי אתה בראת, אתה יצרת, אתה נפחת בי. אלוקיי נשמה שנתת בי, טהוראי אוי אוי אתה בראת אתה יצרת אתה נפחת בי אוי אוי ואתה נשמה בקרבי אוי ואתה עתיד להתלה ממני ואתה עתיד להתלה ממני ולהחזירה בי ליתיד לבוא אוי אוי ואתה נשמה בקרבי אוי ואתה עתיד להתלה ממני ואתה עתיד להתלה ממני ולהחזירה בי ליתיד לבוא אוי 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 נשמה אוי אוי נשמה אוי אוי טהורה היא אוי 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 נשמה אוי אוי נשמה אוי אוי טהורה היא אלוקיי נשמה שנתת בי אוי 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 טהורה היא אוי אוי אתה בראת אתה יצרת אתה נפחת בי אלוקיי נשמה שנתת בי אוי 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 טהורה היא אוי אוי אתה בראת אתה יצרת אתה נפחת בי ואתה נשמה בקרבי ואתה עתיד להתלה ממני ואתה עתיד להתלה ממני ולהחזירה בי ליתיד לבוא אוי ואתה נשמה בקרבי אוי ואתה עתיד להתלה ממני ואתה עתיד להתלה ממני ולהחזירה בי ליתיד לבוא אוי 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 נשמה אוי אוי נשמה אוי אוי טהורה היא אוי 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 נשמה אוי אוי נשמה אוי אוי טהורה היא אוי 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 נשמה אוי אוי נשמה אוי אוי טהורה היא אוי 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 נשמה אוי אוי נשמה אוי אוי טהורה היא
Okay. Joe, I saw you raised your hand. Joe.
No, well, just maybe my mistake.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
No, everything's fine.
Good, good. Okay, Elohim Shaman, my soul is pure. The soul you gave me is pure. You take it from me, you return it to me. I thank you for returning my soul to me. It's a great opening theme for our service, for the Shabbat, for every Shabbat. And we're going to go ahead now. Let me move this around. Get this out of my way. Judy, share sound. What's happening here? Let me close this out. All right. And let me open up our Shabbat service. Judy Alkali has joined us. Shabbat Shalom and welcome. Shabbat Shalom. This is Hollywood Temple Bethel celebration of Yom Ha'atzmaut, Israel Independence Day. We're actually doing it on the correct day, 5th of Iyar, because in Israel, because of Shabbat, it's moved 2 days earlier. So the theme is all things relating to Israel. We're joining with our opening, Shochen Ad Marom Kadosh Shemo V'chatuv Ran Tzadikim Baranai La Yesharim Lava Tehila V'fi Yesharim Te'itahara V'vrei Tzadikim Titbarach V'shan Chasidim Titomam V'kerev Kedoshim Titkahadash V'makalot V'bot Amcha Beit Yisrael Sheken Chobak HaYitzurim Lefanecha Mari Laheinu Ve'Elahei Avoteinu L'Adon Le'aleh L'Shabeach Le'Ba'er Ve'im L'Adel L'Barech L'Aleh L'Ka'ales Ahakol Divrei Shirot L'Ishbachot David Ben Yishar Abdecha Meshichecha Yishtabach Shimcha
L'Ad Malkeinu El HaMelech HaGadol Kol Hazman Uzkiru
Berachaho Me'atav Yad Olam Baruch Atar Adonai Melchadot Batishbachot Elodot Adon Niflot Haboche B'shir Zimra Melech Elchei Olamim. And we have between the people here and probably people watching online enough for a minute. They'll join in the Baruch together. Baruch et Adonai HaMevorach Baruch Adonai Mevorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai
God is a great light in darkness. Yotzer Orech Choshech Osesam Lovrei et Hakol. And for Eladon, for this Shabbat, since I have so many other music selections, I thought we would just go ahead and sing the old-fashioned way we've gotten used to singing it always. And let's all join in. El Adon al kol hamasim baruch borach befikon shama Yalo v'tuvo malei olam da'at utvuna sabavim oto Hamin ga'e al hayot hakodesh V'nedon b'chavod al hamerkava Zechut u'mishor lifnei chiso Chesed rachamim lifnei chirodo Tovim neorot shebara Eloheinu Yetzaram meda'at b'vinov haskel Koach u'gvura natan ba'em Liyot moshlim bekerev Tebel Meleim Ziv Umpikim Noga Noezibam Bechol Ha'olam Smechim Tzeitam Sasim Bevam Osim Be'ema B'tzom Konam Be'er Chavod Notnim Lishmo Tzala Berina Lezechem Achuto Kara Lashemesh Bayezrachor Ravehikin Surat Havana Shevach Notnim Lokotzeva Marom Tiferet Gedula Srafim Be'ochanim B'chayot HaKohodesh. There we go. For a change, we get to sing along, a melody that we know. And we continue with the praise of the angels in the heavens, the visions of Ezekiel, Isaiah and Ezekiel. Kulam avim, kulam berurim, kulam giborim, kulam asimim yiratzon kanam, kulam kablim alehem, o machut shemaim ze mizeh, v'notnim reshut zeh lazeh, nagdish zeh lazeh. Nagdish v'etzam v'nachat v'apsavim v'akedosha, kulam kecharabira, Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzevot, V'choretz Kevodo, V'ofanim v'chayot HaKodesh, V'ra'ash g'rom mitnasim l'umat serafim, Dam Shabchim Yomrim Baruch Adonai Mimeko Baruch And this is Or Chadash is basically a Zionist theme song, cause a new light to shine upon Zion. And it is very commonly sung to the song of one of the Jewish refuseniks songs, the melody that they used. And so we'll sing with that melody. It's Or Chadash Al Tzion Ta'ir V'nizkeh Chulanu Meheira Le'oro Or Chadash Al Tzion Ta'ir V'nizkeh Chulanu Meheira Le'oro Baruch Ata Adonai Yotzei HaMeorot Baruch Ata Adonai Yotzei HaMeorot. And this was originally, as I say, you can tell it's a Russian melody. And Jews in the Soviet Union fighting the Soviet communist oppressors took the melody and flipped it and made a song out of it. Originally was no one except our Lord. I think it was a Chabad group that started it out there. And then it's been applied to this Yotzei HaMeorot, the light upon the children of Israel, upon Zion. And we continue with Ahava Rabbah, and here I'm going to call on Cantor Ozzy Schwartz to open up Ahava Rabbah for us.
Ahavtanu Adonai חמלת עלינו אהבה רבה אהבתנו אדוני אלוהינו חמלה גדולה ויתרה חמלת עלינו בעבור אבותינו ואימותינו שבטחו בך ותלמדם חוקי חיים כן תכוננו ותלמדנו ותלמדנו אהבה רבה אהבתנו אדוני אלוהינו חמלה גדולה ויתרה חמלת חמלת עלינו.
And then, right, there's a statement declaring that we have felt God's love in the form of the teachings of the Torah. And then those pesky Zionists, colonial imperialists, introduced the prayer for Zion long before there was anybody else in the land of Zion, except for us, and called for the return to the land of Zion, Havienu l'Shalom, before there were Palestinians, before there were Arabs in the land of Israel. Havienu l'Shalom, me'ava kanfot ha'aretz, tolichenu kame miut le'atzehinu, Ke'apoe Yeshua Tova Nuhata Mikalam Vilashon Ke'raftanu Shimcha Gadol Sela Sela Be'emet Lehodot Lecha Uyachedcha Uyachedcha B'Yahava Baruch Atah Adonai Abachem Am Yisrael B'Yahava. Notice the melody of Hatikva in this. Notice that this longing for Israel, for Zion, was when Jews were all natives to the Middle East, when there were almost no Jews in Europe. All right, let the BDS people put that in their pipe and smoke it. And let's continue with the Shema together. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael.
Together, V'yahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levacha ub'chol nafshecha ub'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher
Anochi
mitzavacha hayom al levanecha v'shinamta am levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shiftecha b'beitecha v'lecha b'derech yachbecha ובקומך, וקשתם לאותה ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על זו ביתך, ובישעריך. And we continue with the middle prayer of the Shema, the command to love as a people, and affirming that we live on the land, and specifically the land of Israel, with our loyalty to God. All right, so we continue with the last paragraph of the Shema, the command to remember God's commandments. The tzitzit is a reminder for us. Vayomer Adonai Moshe lemor, daber el bnei Yisrael v'amata lehem, v'asu lehem tzitzit, al kantei bigdehem lidorotam, v'natnu hatzitzit hakanaf betil techelet, v'lechem litzitzit, uritem otos chatem ekom mitzvot Adonai v'asitem otam, ve'lo tatur ruach levachem v'achreinechem, asher atem zonim acharehem, למען תזכרו ועשיתם מכל מצוותיי, אתם קדושים לאלוהיכם, אני אדוני לכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים, עיני אליכם אמת. And we continue with the song of liberation of the children of Israel at the shores of the Red Sea. On the bottom of the page here, Tilo le'eleha yom baruchu u'mevorach Moshe u'bnei Yisrael lechan v'shirah b'simcha rabah v'yamru kulam mi kamocha b'elim Adonai mi kamocha nedor b'kodesh norati lo yosef eleh שירה חדש, שבו גאולים שמך, על שפת הים, שירה חדש, שבו גאולים שמך, על שפת הים, יחד כולם עודו, יחד כולם עודבים לי אמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, שור ישראל, ומביא עזרת ישראל, ובדחינו מחה, יהודה וישראל, גואלנו אדוני צבאות שמו, ראש ישראל ברוך אדוני, ירא ישראל. And we continue, we're going to do the opening of the Midah together, the Midah of Kedusha together, then silently. And then at the end, we're going to come back for a special Al Hanisim for Israel Independence Day. Adonai, Sifatai Tiftachu, Pi Agiti Latecha, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elokei Avotenu Elokei Avraham Elokei Yitzchak Elokei Yaakov Elokei Sarah Elokei Rivka Elokei Rachel Elokei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor V'Nora Elyon Gomer Chasadim Tovim V'Koneh Hakol V'Zocher Chazdei Avot V'Gad V'neihem L'man Shemo B'Ahava Melech Ozer Mashiach Baruch Adonai Magen Abraham Pokei Tzara Ata Gibor Le'olam Adonai Mechai Metim Ata Rav Lo Shiach Mashir Ruach Brikatal Mechakel Chaim Bechesed Mechayeh Metim Berachamim Rabim Samech Noflim Verofei Cholim Ormat Yirasurim Mekayem Emunato Lishenei Afar Michamo Chava Gevurot Omidom Melech Melech Remidom Chayeh Omatz Miachishua Ne'emonato L'chayot Meitim Baruch Adonai Mechayeh HaMeitim. Continue with the Kedusha. Nekarishim Chabalam, Keshem Shemakdishim Ato B'Shmei Marom, Katuv Ayan Nevi'echa, Shar Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzevaot, Me'oretz Kevodo. Az B'kol Rash Gadol, Adil Chazak Mashmim, Kol Mitmasim, L'umat Serafim, Tambar Shomeiru, Baruch Kevod Adonai Mimekom. Oy mimkom ha, Markeinu Tofia, V'tim loch Hanekim Hakim Anachnu, V'taitim loch B'tzion, B'korvin V'tishkom, Titgadav V'titgadash B'toch Yerushalayim, Nicha Le'do'evado, Tzachim B'eineinu tirena tirena achotecha kadav omor b'shirei ozecha Hayre Rabbi Mashiach Tzidkecha Yimloch Adonai Li'olam Melech Tzion Novodo Hallelujah Ledor Vador Ledor Vador Ledor Vador Ledor Vador Nagigan Lecha Ledor Vador Ledor Vador Ledor Vador Ledor Vador Ledor Vador Nagigan Lecha Ole Netzach Netzachim Ole Netzach Netzachim Kushatcha Kushatcha Nagdish Ole Netzach Netzachim Ole Netzach Netzachim Kushatcha Kushatcha Nagdish Ledor Vador Ledor Vador Ledor Vador Ledor Vador Vador Nagigan Lecha Ledor Vador Ledor Vador Ledor Vador Ledor Vador Nagigan Lecha V'shivcha Eloheinu mipin Layamosh Layamosh Le'olam Ledor Vador Ledor Vador Nagigan Lecha Ledor Vador Nagigan Lecha Yemela Gado V'Kadosh Atarak Yemela Gado V'Kadosh Ata Baruch Adonai Akahahadosh. Now we continue silently. I'll scan the page for you. Yismach Okay, now the Rabbinical Assembly, that's the organization of the rabbis of the conservative movement, introduced an Al Hanisim similar to Purim and Hanukkah. The text, it may be that the Kibbutz Dati has incorporated the text also, I'm not sure, but we'll put this up here. I have it in the Hebrew for it. Starts out with the Al Hanisim, Al Purkan, Al Gvuot, Al Shuot, Al Milchamot, Shasita Lavatinu B'Yamim Haim Bazman Hazeh. Same opening for Hanukkah and Purim, the miracles, the wonders, and the deliverances of the wars that you did for our ancestors in those days and in our time. So this is in our time still. Some of us here are old enough to have been born or even been alive while this, a young man, Joe, when this was happening.
Yeah.
We have the declaration B'yom Shivat, B'mei Shivat Banim Ligvulam, in the days of the turn of children to their borders. So we just pulled down here for you the English text. And I'm going to make it a little bit bigger so you can follow along with me and read with me. There we go. I go one size larger. There we are. Here we go. And we'll read this on the bottom together on Yom Ha'atzmaut, Israel Independence Day. In the days when your children were returning to their borders, the time when our people took root in its land, as in the days of old, the gates of the land of our ancestors were closed before those who were fleeing the sword. When enemies from within the land, together with 7 neighboring nations, sought to annihilate your people, you, in your great mercy, stood by them in time of trouble. You defended them and vindicated them. You gave them courage to meet their foes, to open the gates to those seeking refuge, free the land of its armed invaders. You delivered the many into the hands of the few, the guilty into the hands of the innocent. Revealed your glory and your holiness to all the world, achieving great victories and miraculous deliverance for your people, Israel, to this day. And another element of Yom Ha'atzmaut in Israel is singing Hallel. Again, that's also in the practice of the Rabbanut Rashit. And so I've got my cantor from Jalisco, Cantor Mendelssohn, and he's got this Hallel for us. Hallelu.
Hallelujah, hallelujah, Shem, Kol Goyim, Shabechu, Shabechu, Kol Laubim, Yikavar Aleinu Chasdo, Chasdo, Bemet Hashem Leolam, Hallelujah,
Hallelujah.
Odu LaHashem Ito Leolam Chasdo Yomar, Yomar, Yomarna Yomarna Israel Leolam Chasdo Yomru יאמרונה ביתה ארון כי לעולם חסדו יאמרונה יראי השם כי לעולם חסדו הללו, הללו את השם כל גויים שבחו, שבחו, שבחו כל העמים כי גבר עלינו חסדו חסדו באמת השם לעולם הללויה הודו לשם איתו לעולם חסדו יאמר 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 נא יאמר נא ישראל כי לעולם חסדו יאמרו 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 נא יאמרונה ביתה ארון כי לעולם חסדו יאמרו 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 נא יראי השם כי לעולם חסדו.
Okay, sense of the celebration, the Hallel, because we have seen something new that was not before. Was there anywhere in earth, in history, where a nation suddenly has come back on its land after nearly 2,000 years of exile, with an independent government that actually had not existed for more than 2,000 years? Unseen and unheard of. So we go ahead in this mood of festivity and celebration. Thank you, Cantor Mendelssohn. And we're going to go ahead with our Shabbat service. Okay. And I'm going to go to Pirkei Avot. We're reading in Pirkei Avot.
It would be really hard for me to,
wait.
especially
Please
in these times.
There we go. Okay. Thank you. And we are now in verse 2 of chapter 3. And this is a very long one because really the two rabbis in one, both of them have the same first name, the same personal name, which is Hanina. So we're going to look at the first one, which is Rabbi Hanina Sgan HaKohanim. Rabbi Hanina, who was the second, we'll call it the vice Kohen. What does that mean? That on Yom Kippur, the Kohen was in charge of the purification for the entire people. Should something happen to the Kohen Gadol, he would be brought in as the replacement. So he was Rabbi, a teacher. He wasn't so much interested in the action of the Kuna as in the teaching, but he was ready to take the place and he was qualified to take the place. That would be the purpose of that title. And he says, and so keep in mind, he's replacing Kohen. When is he replacing Kohen? While the temple still exists. And indeed, he lives at the time of the destruction of the temple. So what he says is very eye-opening. Hevei mitpalel b'shloma shel malchut. Continually pray for the well-being of the government. What government? There's no Jewish government. There's a Roman Empire on top of the children of Israel, on top of the people of Israel. Couldn't be a worse thing. The rabbis have a debate among themselves. In other places say, well, look what wonderful things. One of them says that the Romans did first built bridges, they built theaters, aqueducts, and the other one answers back and says, yeah, they built the bridges and the aqueducts so that they could march their troops faster and the theaters to burn people in, right? So, yet, He says, pray for the well-being of the kingdom, no matter what the kingdom is. And the word is malchut, which means not the king, but the kingdom. And it's the entire government. And the rabbis interpret all the ministers of state, top to bottom. Why? Why do any government? If not for the fear of government, there's one purpose for government, and this is going back, you see this in the John Locke and in the early theoreticians of modern government, Hume and all the others, right? Human society is man eat man, which is exactly what he says. Ish et re'ehu chaim bala'o. And the rabbis give an example, like fish. You ever see fish? The little fish is eaten by the bigger fish eaten by the next bigger fish, and so on down the line. There's no end. Ish et re'ehu, even re'ehu, your neighbor, your friend, hayim bala'o. You don't even chew him up, you just swallow him up. That is what happens when there's no government. Anarchy. We've watched it happen here. Everybody's saying, defund the police, defund the police. They defunded the police in some of the cities, anarchy broke out. Then all of a sudden they're refunding the police. You pray for good government, you don't pray for bad government, but nevertheless there has to be some kind of government. Inevitably, in a state of anarchy, it turns back into a government because at some point the most powerful in an anarchy kills all the others to take over, right? He understood it. We have to understand that. Good government, bad government, we need to have stability. That's what we want to do. We want to have good stability instead of bad stability. We want to have good government instead of bad government. We need to have some kind of agreed upon system of organizing our lives together. Otherwise, each one swallows his neighbor alive. Oh, we'll go ahead with the Kaddish. The one is Kaddish. Joe, please lead us. The Kaddish the Rabbanan.
Yiskadav, Yiskadash, Shemei Rabba,
Amen.
Korisavim Lich Malchutei, Becha, Yaichon, Vimechan, Chai, Bechol, Beis Yisroel, Ba'agov, Zman Karim, V'imru, Amen.
Amen.
Yehei Shemei Rabba, Mavurach, Olam, Be'omer, Maya. Yisporach, V'istabach, V'ispuah, V'isramam, V'isnasei, V'isadar, V'isalei, V'isalo, Shemei Kodeshah, Barichu. Elam mit kol berachata v'shirata tush b'chata v'nechamata dameron be'om obrim oman Al Yisrael v'al Rabbanon v'al Talmudayim v'al kol Talmudayim al kol mind biva raisa diva sar v'yahen v'ri v'chol asar v'char yehei l'chon v'shlona shlomo rabba chine v'chis v'rachman chaim arichem mezoinim Rizivu chinu if kiriu kumu min kumu avahon diva shemayim ve'ambra ve'imru amen. Yehei shlomo rabba min shemayim chaim tov mulayne v'akol Yisroel ve'imru amen. Osei shalom b'mromo hu barachmov yasei shalom aleinu v'akol Yisroel ve'imru amen.
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 Amen. And so bring our screen back to, hold on 1 second, Hollywood Temple Bet El, and everybody's welcome to support our congregation, your local and online congregation. And we're coming now to the Torah reading, the Ark. We're in front of the Ark, and we're going to get ready to take the Torah from the Ark. Have our reading ready. So I see Joe Lulu, you're here. You're going to do Torah reading?
I'm here, but not this week. I
Not this week. Okay,
really wasn't able to. I will.
Okay.
I will.
Good. Is Simon there? Because Simon was going to come.
Yeah,
on.
where's Simon hiding?
No, he's going to come on. He said he was going to come on. He's going to do the Haftarah. He set him up with a special Haftarah. So we'll start with our Torah reading. We're going to take our Torah from the Ark. Ein kamocha Elohim Adonai, ein kamasecha, malchutecha malchut, kol olamim, umemshacha b'chodor ador, Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai yimloch, le'olam Adonai
Oz
Oz,
Liamo
Lamo
Yitain.
Yitain, Adonai
Adonai
Yechet Amo Vashalom, Avarachami, Eitiva B'Tzalma, Etzion. Timnei Chomot Yerushalayim, Timnei Chomot Yerushalayim, Ki B'chal Levavatanu Melech Eram V'Nisadon Olamim, Vayhi Ben Saharon, Vayomer Moshe, Tuma Adonai V'Yafutzai B'cha, V'Yanusum Misanecha, Mipanecha, Ki Mitzion Teitzei Torah, Ki Mitzion Teitzei Torah, Udevar Adonai Mirushalayim, Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah, Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah, Le'amo Yisrael, Mikedushato. We continue with the prayer in front of the ark, as we face the ark. Velishme Kadisha, Kadisha Yakira, Ana Amatush Bechon, Be'anarachet, Be'anarachet, Velishme Kadisha, Kadisha Yakira, Ana Amatush Bechon, Yerava, Kadama, Netefnach libi v'oraita v'tashlim mishalim delibi v'li barechol amach Yisrael l'tavu chayin v'l'ishlam. Amen. And we take out our figurative sefer from the ark. And you repeat after me. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael Adonai
Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adoneinu Gadol Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adoneinu Gadol
Shemo.
Adonai Adonai Itionerah Shemo Yachdav. Lecha Adonai Hagedol V'Hagevora V'Hatiferet V'Netzach V'Hod Ki Chov HaShamayim U'Va'aretz Chov HaShamayim U'Va'aretz Lecha Adonai HaMamlacha V'Mitnaseh L'Chol L'Rosh Romemo Adonai Eloheinu V'Ishtachavu L'Adam Raglav Kadoshu Romemu Adonai Eloheinu V'Ishtachavu L'Har Kadosh Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu. Okay, so we are here with our Torah reading. We are in the portion of Tazria Mitzorah. Let me move this over here. There we go. Tazria Mitzorah. It's a combined portion. Opens up Tazria, Ishaki Tazria. If a woman becomes pregnant, Tazria, and gives birth, she is to be in a state of purity, 7 days, and another 40 days, and so on. Then brings a Thanksgiving offering, a sin offering, Korban Chatat, which is not sin so much as cleansing, sense of cleansing from the blood of the birth. And then she's purified, same thing with the daughter. And the rabbis read into it, by the way, how to guarantee whether you're going to have a son or a daughter at birth, and it has to do with the husband and the wife, what they do at night together. And some of you younger guys and girls there, if you're planning on having children, I'll give you a separate aside as to how to do it according to the Talmud. All right? This is open to the public. Kids may be listening. So anyway, We go ahead. It then goes into other conditions of purity and impurity, which is the tzara'at, the plague of leprosy, which is itself very questionable because we translated leprosy, which is another name for Hansen's disease. But as anybody who studies leprosy as Hansen's disease knows, it's very rare in the Middle East. Almost didn't exist, in fact, until 2,000 years ago, still very rare. Found in other parts of the world, rare in the Middle East. So it is not leprosy. This they understand. So they've been, let's say, this medical experts have been tearing out the hairs for years, trying to figure out what it is. The rabbis try to interpret it, give it what we may call the humanistic interpretation, which is to say it is a metaphor for bad-mouthing, a metaphor for slander, a metaphor for lies and libel, a metaphor for Twitter and Facebook and all emails and all this junk that is coming around, which just turns into a snowball of tragedy on the people who become the victims, right? There's some things called the, social media bullying, where little kids have committed suicide because their friends have piled on top of it, right? So the rabbi says a very important language, and they say, well, look at the examples we have of tzara'as leprosy. Miriam, she speaks ill of Moses, and that's what happens. So they take that, mitzorah, meaning motzi shem ra, one who says evil of his neighbor. But if we actually look at it, we see in the story, there is no connection actually with speaking in this. And it would indicate, if we look at it, actually, it's very different in some ways from the tzara'at that is mentioned in other portions of the Bible, because it comes mysteriously and it goes mysteriously. Spontaneous induction, spontaneous remission. In other words, there's no sin imputed to the person who has this. Nowhere is he a sinner. He is tameh. He needs to be cleansed so he can come back into the community to give his offerings. But there's no punishment by itself. So why the isolation then? If there's no sin before, no sin after, it is purity. And this whole section has to do with deals of issues of purity and impurity. And that's a whole realm in and of itself, which the world is divided to pure and impure. And impure is not necessarily hold on. Let me do this. I have my speakers. Huh? Okay. Not necessarily a sign of sinfulness. I see Simon has been trying to reach me. I think he's having trouble getting in. Jeff, if you could do me a favor, can you reach him and tell him how to get in? Jeff? Yeah. Can you do that for me? Just let me know. If you can reach Simon, please reach out to him. Tell him how to get in. Okay. All right. We go ahead then. Okay.
Rabbi, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
When a leprous man is cured, there is a ritual that is done the same as Moses did with Aaron. He touches his right ear, his right finger.
Purification, right.
And the same thing is done to the leper that is being cured. So right. It was kind of interesting. What was is there some kind of a meaning about
why the ear in particular? Good question. There, it was worth looking up. But what's interesting in both of them is neither of them is cured of anything. Aaron is not sick. He needs to be pure to go into the temple. And the leper is not sick per se. He's impure and pure. That's the interesting thing, because they give other examples of other skin conditions that may be worse, but they're not part of this leprosy. So one physician has looked at it and said, if you look at the description, it actually fits the description of melanoma, skin cancer. He says, well, you're in the Middle East. It's very prevalent in the Middle East. And we know it's fatal. It comes on all of a sudden. He says what they're looking at is spontaneous remission, because they could do nothing about it. but it sometimes disappeared. And so they would hold the person in isolation. When it would disappear, they would bring him back into the community. That's the only physical explanation one could give of the tzarat, possibly, right? So they use it then, as I say, as a sign of purity and impurity, and the rabbis transform it then from their end, because this issue of purity and impurity is less important for them, to the moral metaphor becomes much more important. Jeff, were you able to get hold of Simon? Yeah. Yeah.
He called me, and I think he was confused that he thought maybe it would be a live service.
No, I told him it's online today. He asked me yesterday. I said, no, we're online. Okay. Tell him how to get in. Let's see if he makes it. All right. Okay. All right. He told me he spoke to you and you said we were going to be in the synagogue. Okay.
He was confused. I never said that.
And then I told him yesterday, no, we're going to be online only. Later. We're going to do it later. Oh boy. Okay. Pink for carrot. What can I tell you? Simon? All right. Okay. If you can come in, very good. If not, it's okay. All right. So we're going to do the reading. Go to the blessings. Joe, would you please lead us with the blessings?
Baruch Hu Esadana HaMavarach.
Baruch Hu
Baruch Adonai Baruch L'Olam Voed. Baruch Adonai Hanumelech Olam. Asher B'Chabonu Mikol Ramim. V'natan Lanu Es Tarusai. Baruch Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Ish ki maret rosho kereach hu tahor hu v'mipat panav yimaret rosho gibeach hu tahor v'ki yeh bekaracha o begavhat nega lo evan adam dam tzarat parachat hi bekarachato o begavhato ra'oto ikahen b'nesat nega levana adam dam parachato o begavhato kimaret tzarat or basar ish tzaru hu tameh hu Tamei yitme'enu hakahen berosho yiga nagao v'tzarosher bo hanega begadav yu prumim rosho yu prumim v'rosho yeh parua al safam yatev tamei yikare ki yemei asher hanega bo yitma tamei hu badad yoshev michutz l'machane moshavoho V'aged yeh bo neged tzarat beged tzema o beged pishtim o b'shti o ba'erev lepishtim letzema o be'or kol melechet or v'aneged rak o dam b'beged o be'or b'shti o ba'erev o b'chol kli or neged tzarat hu v'harehu et hakohen v'rei hakohen et haneged v'zget haneged shivat yamim וראה את הנגע ביום השביעי כי פסע הנגע בבגד או בשתי או בערב או באור כל אשר יעשה האור למלאכה צרת ממראה הנגע טמא הוא ושרף את הבגד או השתי או את הערב בצמא או בשתים או את כל כלי אור אשר בו הנגע כי צרת ממראה היא באש תשרף ואם יראה הכהן והנה לא פסע הנגע בבגד או בשתי או בערב או בכל כלי אור וציווהו הכהן וכבשות אשר בו הנגע וסגירו שבעת ימים שהני. Just this one section we read had to do with balding on the head, and one of the things is for us it distinguishes between regular male pattern baldness or other causes of baldness and an actual outbreak that's on the scalp that causes the hair to fall out. So if any of you are getting bald, don't worry, it's not this. Okay. All right. And now we go ahead. Okay. So I hope Simon, were you able, is that you? Number is 800-8044. Okay. You let me know. And we'll continue then with the blessing for those who are ill. Up here. The Misha Berach, and now I have Debbie Friedman to lead us in the singing. We're going to read on behalf of those who are ill. Mishaberach Avotenu, Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Leah. May the Holy One who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Becca, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal those who are ill. Esther Elisheva, Pinchas Belteskovsky, Miriam Leodorf, Yasser Ben Galina, Moisey Kelchik, Mindy Levins Pfeiffer, Jennifer Levins, Ronnie Duran, Harriet Levins, Moisey Ben Manya, Barbara Moorman, Esther Gerson, Jeffrey Buck, Avigdor Tzvia, Alexander Drato, Roger Rose, Rich LaFlavo, Jenny Plato, Michael Schinder, Susan Tuckman, Shirley Marco, Vera Feinberg, Judy Alcalay, Richard Zeller, Levin Masha Ben Sarah, Jason, Maureen Tucker, and Gary Tucker. Liba Batsara, Hannah Batsara, Norman, One second.
You have to wait.
One second, please. Rina Sepian, Shoshana Batsara, Hannah Sarlea Bat Rachel, Hannah Sarbat Kayla Alta, Alan Whalen, Harry Anesti, Sophie, the friend of Judy Alcalay, all those affected by COVID virus. Okay. Now, please go ahead. Give me your names.
Why do we have this background noise?
Yeah. Please watch the background noise. Okay. Give me names for Mishaberach.
Rachel Ventura.
Rachel Ventura. Joe, why don't you?
Sima Harlev. Ron Harlev.
Ron Harlev.
Susan Feinberg. Sharon Lippman. Esther Rachel Batsiva. Laban Moshe Ben Sarah. Shlomo Ben Lazar. And Carl Fleck.
Anyone else?
Ronald Rothman.
Oh, Ronald Rothman.
Tito and Gabi Gorodicha.
Okay, Daniel, go ahead.
Yeah, Fajes Ben Abraham Shimon.
Fajes Ben Shimon Aram. Okay, Jeff. Wendy Keller.
No.
Yeah, the background noise. I don't know who.
Who is
Let me just turn off the mics for a second. So, okay, that will make it easier. 1 second, I'm going to turn off the mics. Yeah, okay, just for a second. That's it. It's too much background noise. We'll have it back on in a second. We got to go ahead then to pray. Kodesh Baruch Hu Yishlach Lehem Refuah Shlema Refuat Nefesh Refuat Guf. May the Holy One send them healing both in body and in mind to them and to the house of Israel. And let us all say Amen. Amen. And we go ahead then, Judy. I'm sorry, Debbie Friedman.
Be with so many people and to not sing the Mishaberach with you. So I'm just going to do it. And I'll sing it first for you and ask you not to sing along. And then I'll ask you to join with me and to hold in your minds and hearts the names of those people in your lives in need of healing. And for all of those across the seas, all of those we don't know, and all of those for whom there is no one to ask for blessings of healing and well-being. This is for you. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. This is still for you. the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. Misheberach avotenu, Misheberach avotenu, Mekor habracha, Mekor habracha, Le'imotenu, Imotei. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberach imotenu, Misheberach imotenu, Mekor habracha, Lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say
And now, in the same theme, Yom Ha'atzmaut, pray for the soldiers of Israel. Can't do it.
Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, uyevarech et chayalei tzva hagana leYisrael, uyevarech et chayalei tzva hagana leYisrael, uyevarech et chayalei tzva hagana leYisrael, העומדים על משמר ארצנו והרי אלוהינו, מן הלבנון ועד מדבר מצרים, ומן הים הגדול עד לבוא הערבה, ביבשה הקמים עלינו ניגפים לפניהם, הקדוש ברוך הוא ישמור ויציל את חיילינו מכל צרה וצוקה ומכל נגע ומחלה, וישלח ברכה והצלחה בכל מעשה ידיהם, ידבר שונאינו תחתיהם ויעטרם בכתר ישועה ובעטרת ניצחון, ויקוים בהם הכתוב כי אדוני אלוהיכם ההולך עמכם להילחם לכם עם אויביכם להושיע אתכם
those of the Israel Defense Forces till today, standing, watching over the land, taking great risks. Okay, and may they indeed be safe and be protected. We go ahead now with the Haftarah. Now, I want to make sure, Simon, I hope that you're able to come aboard. Simon, if it's you, you have to unmute the microphone. I don't know which one is you. I hope you can hear. And if you're on the phone, it's star 26. Star and 26. Are you on, Simon? I don't know which one it is. Okay. All right. Well, we're trying. Let me just check here. Let me see here. Oh, that is Simon. Simon, do you know how to unmute? I see you're on. Yeah. Okay. You have to hit star 26.
Can you hear me?
Now I hear you. All right, thank God.
Yeah.
Okay. I was worried for you. Thank God. It's very important. I want you to do this Haftarah because you're the Vatik here among us here in terms of having been in the Israel Defense Forces. Barbara.
Okay, I can say something, Gary.
Go ahead.
About the Israel Force, I went for many suicide missions.
Say it again.
Today I'm over 7. I went to many suicide missions with Abdut.
Aye.
Today I'm over 70, so I can start to talk about this.
Oh.
Yeah.
Maybe you put together something. One time we'll ask you for. I know that you were in the Yom Kippur War and were, so you know. Maybe
I was also in on the Bikat Yarden Mirbafim about chasing the terrorist on the valley of the Jordan.
Oh my gosh, there were a lot of actions. Yes.
68 to 71.
Yes. There was a lot of action.
I was lucky one. Not everybody came back. Many the big officers.
Yeah.
Died in front of me.
Oh God, yeah. I remember there was like Bet Shan. There was a terrible attack. I think it was into Bet Shan from.
No, I was Bet Shan. I wasn't there. No, the Bet Shan, Ma'alot. I wasn't there.
Ma'alot. Oh, you got involved.
No. Over there, I didn't have anything with this one.
Yeah.
It was another group that went there.
Yeah.
Okay, so what book I should open?
Okay, Yeshayahu Perek Yud Aleph. It is the prophecy of Yeshayahu that becomes the Haftarah, changing the regular Haftarah is for the story of the Mitzrayim, the lepers at the gate. ויצא חותר מגזר ישי, ישי.
יצא חותר מגזר ישי?
Yeah.
What parasha this is?
I don't know. I have it on the screen.
Okay.
Screen in front of you.
Tis
Yud
Ra.
Aleph.
Screen, I don't see it. 1 second.
Yeah, Perk Yud Aleph.
It's Vayikra Tezri.
What? Vayikra what?
No. It's Vayetze Chotem Migeza Yishai.
Motiv.
Well,
This is the Gaza Avim Kevis V'Nameim G'dei Bats. Right? What are you looking? It's the theme is that of Isaiah calling for a reestablished house of David on the throne of David, and the children of Israel living in. That's it. It's in there.
Yeah, but I'm looking for a book. Where, in what parasha this is?
I don't know. It's it is one of the parashot, I know, but which one it is, I don't know. This is from the Rabbanut Rashit and the Kibbutz Dati. תנ"ך, יש לך תנ"ך?
יש לי, אבל אני מחפש אותו, הוא גדול. אולי יצאו לי פה, מישהו עשה פה סדר, ולקח לי אותו.
Okay. I'm going to explain it. It is from Yeshayahu. The theme is the reestablishment of the Davidic dynasty. Yeshayahu is talking when Chizkiyahu, or one of the successors or followers, is still on the throne. So this is before the destruction of the southern kingdom, but he's looking for the kingdom to be established firmly and fully. And the metaphor he gives is the Gaza Evim Kevis, that the wolf will lie down with the lamb. When the wolf is the Assyrians or the Egyptians, the lamb is the people of Israel, the people of Judea. They will all lie down in peace together, unafraid, because this king will instill the fear of justice in all of those. And they will not destroy on the holy mountain. And on that day, God will return to him those who had been exiled. Remember, at this time already the northern kingdom had been lost for defeat to the Assyrians. And the Assyrians actually on their way to the Judean borders. And so he says, I'm looking forward, they will all be brought back in the end of days. Right? Those that have fled, as far as they've fled to Egypt, to Persia, Shinar, it's the Elam, the Mesopotamian areas, Hamad, the end of Syria in the north, they will all come back together. And Judea and Ephraim will cease being at odds. Right? That is the theme. Did you find it, Simon?
That, Rabbi?
I found the book. I found the book.
Haftorah Tazria.
Yeah, no, I'm not using Tazria because it's Yom Ha'atzmaut. I'm doing the one special for Yom Ha'atzmaut.
Oh, I see.
Okay, Isaiah.
Yud Aleph.
Isaiah 539. Yes, I found the book.
Yud Aleph.
Yud Aleph?
Yeah.
11.
That's it, you got it. Mazal Tov.
Okay, till where?
Asra Psukim, 10 sentences.
Okay.
That's good. Go ahead.
Do I have to say some bracha?
No, bli bracha.
No.
And on the Go ahead.
ויצא חותר מגזע ישי, ונצר משורשיו יפרה, ונחה עליו רוח אדוני, רוח חוכמה ובינה, רוח עצה וגבורה, רוח דעת ויראת אדוני. והעריכו ביראת אדוני, ולא למראה עיניו ישפוט, ולא במשמע אוזניו יוכיח. ושפט בצדק דלים, והוכיח במישור לענבי ארץ, ויקע ארץ בשבט פיו, וברוח שפתיו ימית רעשה. והיה צדק אזור מותניו, והאמונה אזור חלציו. וגר זאב עם כבש, ונמר עם גדי ירבץ, ועגל וכפיר ומריח דף, ונער קטון נוהג בם. ופרה ודוב תראינה, יחדיו ירבצו ילדיהן, ואריה בבקר יאכל תבן. ושעשע יונק על חור פטן, ועל מאור הצפוני, גמול ידיו הדה. לא יריעו ולא ישחיתו בכל הר קודשי, כי מלאה הארץ דעה. הלא שרה יחדיו מלכים, הלא בחרמיש קלנו, אם לא כערפד חמת, אם לא כדמשק שומרון.
Okay, Yashikach. It was worth waiting.
To say Tzur Kolamim or no?
That's fine. That's very good. Yashikach, you read it on behalf of all your friends who fell, and on behalf of all those who fought and survived, and I thank you very much. And
very few survived.
Thank God that, but with you,
first line, first die.
Oh God, yeah.
Okay,
so we're going to go ahead and 1 second. We go ahead with the prayer for the country, because I read from Pirkei Avot, pray for the well-being of the country, of the government, or if not, the power of government, each would swallow his neighbor alive. So pray for our country here where we live. Shalu shalom medina, shalu shalom irchab. Pray for the peace of the city in which you dwell. That's what the prophets taught us. Our God and God of our ancestors, we ask your blessings for our country, for its government, for its leaders and advisors, and for all who exercise justice and rightful authority. Teach them insights from your Torah that they may administer all affairs of state fairly, that peace and security, happiness and prosperity, justice and freedom may forever abide in our midst. Creator of all flesh, bless all the inhabitants of our country with your spirit. May citizens of all races and creeds forge a common bond in true harmony, to banish hatred and bigotry, safeguard the ideals and free institutions that are the pride and glory of our country. May this land, under your providence, be an influence for good throughout the world, uniting all people in peace and freedom. Having them to fulfill the vision of your prophet, nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they experience war anymore. And let us say, Amen.
Amen.
And now for the people in the state of Israel, on this Yom Ha'atzmaut, I have Cantor Abramson, on behalf of the people of Israel. Tefillah Shlom Avinu, prayer for peace in
אבינו, אבינו, שבשמיים, צור ישראל וגואלו, הגן עליה בברק חסדך ופרוס עליה סוכת שלומך. אבינו אבינו שבשמיים צור ישראל גואלו. אבינו אבינו שבשמיים צור ישראל גואלו. ושלח אורך לראשיה שריה ויועציה ותקנה עצה טובה מלפניך ותקנם בעצה טובה אבינו אבינו שבשמיים צור ישראל גואלו. אבינו אבינו שבשמיים צור ישראל
Okay, it's a beautiful rendition. It goes on for a long time. I want to get on because I want to get on to celebrating. We pray for the people in the forces of Israel. And you see the forces, the military, it is the people's army. It is the people's army. When I was a young student, I came to Israel. It was the height of Vietnam War for the United States. And I came to Israel as a student. And I knew what antagonism young Americans felt towards American soldiers. And in Israel, I saw how Israeli soldiers are embraced. And I realized it's the people's army. And they felt it. The people fighting on their own land, men and women alike. So, for the people of Israel, blessings on this Yom Ha'atzmaut, 5th of Iyar, Hey Be'iyar. So we continue. We return the Torah to the Ark. Let's join in. Okay.
Yeah, hallelujah.
There we go. I went one step. Yalalu et Shem Adonai, Kines Goshen Olevado. Hodo Aleretz v'shamayim vayarem keren le'amot hihila lechochasida livnei Yisrael am kerova. Hallelujah, hallelujah. And we go ahead and Mizmor leDavid. Adonai b'nei Eli, Adonai kavamos. Havel Adonai kevod shemo, ishtachavul Adonai b'hadrat kodesh. Mayim, kol Adonai alamayim, el kevod yirim, Adonai mayim rabim, kol Adonai b'akach, kol Adonai b'hadar, kol Adonai shaver arazim, v'shaver Adonai v'azeh halvanon, yakirin k'megeb v'siryon, kemo ben reimim. Kol Adonai Amotesh, Kol Adonai Yachim Midbar, Yachil Adonai Midbar Kadesh, Kol Adonai Yachol Ayolot, Yachasof Yorechol Kolo Omer Kavod, Adonai lamavon yashav, vayeshev Adonai melech leolam. Adonai oz le'amo yitein, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. And we return to the ark as we chant. Eitz chahayim hi lamachazikim ba v'tom checha me'ushar derachecha dacheinam v'chol netivoteha shalom ashihi v'heinu Adonai elecha v'nashova Chadesh yameinu and we're going to go ahead. I was going to have Kali Bach, but I want to focus so much on Israel. I have so much more. So let's just do Ein Keloheinu. We're going to go straight through to the end so we can set up our celebration. Ein Keloheinu, Ein Adonai, Ein Kemalkeinu, Ein Kemoshienu, Eloheinu, Adonai, Kemalkeinu, Kemoshienu, Nodel Eloheinu, Nodel Adonai, Nodel Kemalkeinu, Nodel Moshienu, Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonai, Baruch Makeinu, Baruch Moshienu, Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonai, Atahu Moshienu, Atahu Shekiru, Avoteinu Lefanecha, Et Ketoret HaSahabim, and Aleinu together. Aleinu l'shabbat l'adon, our kol, take it and say Breshit. Elo asanikei haratzot, velo samanu mishpachat adama, lo samchakeinu kahem, gor aleinu kecho hamonam, v'anachnu korim, mishtachavim umodim, lifnei melech, hamlachim akadosh baruch hu, she'onoteh shamayim v'yasir haaretz, Mashem yikaro b'shamayim imal, Oshchinatu zo begaven meromim, Eloheinu einot, Ememakenu avizulato, Kakatu b'torato, V'yadata yam v'hashivota elev alecha, Ki Adonai Elohim, Hashamayim imal, V'yalaretz, Tachateinu leinot. And we can do the last line. V'ne'ema, V'aya Adonai, L'melech ha'kol ha'aretz, Yomahu, V'yomahu, Yeh Adonai echad, U'shemo echad. And we continue now. We remember those loved ones who passed away this year, and there's Yahrzeit commemorated this coming week. George Viso, the father of Robin Viso, and Risa Prebluda. And we recall those who passed away this year. Margalit Sadok, my mother-in-law, together with her sister Dvor Levi and her brother Chaim Levi. Ilanit Bat Yitzchak, the mother of Isaac Norman, Dr. Isaac Norman. Harry Carroll and Davis Wenkert, Jack Petsko, the victims of COVID-19 virus, and
Rachel Mehlman.
Rachel Mehlman,
and Mordechai Cohen.
And also those of Israel Defense Forces and of the Haganah that preceded it, and the Geduda Ivri and all the Jewish defense forces that preceded made possible the rise of the land of Israel, and all those who died at the hands of terror and the terrorists that are behind them, Yamach Shemam. And for them, we also add our prayers and our thoughts on this Yom Ha'atzmaut celebration. And go ahead with the Kaddish. Yitkadash Shemei Rabba V'yamad Divrei Chilutei V'yamlich Malchutei B'chayachon V'yamechon U'chayei L'chol Beit Yisrael Bargalov's Learn Prit Vimru Amen. Yehish Meir Avon Morach Le'olam Omer Maya. Yibarach Vishtabach Vipa'ar V'tamar Mitnaseh. Vitadar Vitadar Vithalal Shemei Kucha Berichu. Le'ela Min Kol Mir Chata V'shirata. Tush B'chata V'nechamata Damion Be'alma Vimru Amen. Yehish Shlom Rabba Min Shemaya B'chayim Tavim Aleinu V'Koyse Vimru Amen. Oseh Shalom Vimru Amav. Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu V'Koyse Vimru Amen. Amen. And now we're going to wrap up. Hollywood Temple Bethel brought you this service, and we're going to continue celebrating Israel. I have a little bit of history video, a little bit about myself, and very interesting clips from this year's celebrations for the 73rd anniversary of the State of Israel. And so we're going to wrap up with Adon Olam. Again, I'm going to bring in Cantor Abramson from the Israel Defense Forces, the chief cantor of the Israel Defense Forces, to lead us in Adon Olam. Come on, Cantor. Here we go. And we can join in.
Adon Olam.
בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נשא, בחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא. אדון עולם אשר עלה, בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נשא בחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא. ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו לא נורא והוא היה והוא ילד תפארה אדון עולם אשר בנה בטרם כל יציר נברא עת נשא בחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא אחד בין שני והמשילו להכפירה ולראשית ולתכלית זוהרות המשרה אדון עולם אשר בנה בטרם כל יציר נברא לעת נשא בחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו נקרא וחי גואלי, וצור חבלי וצרה, והוא ניסי ומנוסי, מנת כוסי ביום אקרא. אדון עולם אשר בנה, בטרם כל יציר נברא, עת נשא בחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא. בידו אפקיד רוחי ותשאר ועין ירא ועם רוחי יגיעתי עד שבי אדון עולם אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא עת נשא בחפצו כל אזי מלך שמו Okay, Spirited Adon Olam. I'm going
go stop screen for a second so we can see each other, wish each other Shabbat Shalom to those who are online, watching on Facebook or YouTube.
Shabbat Shalom.
And I want us to start thinking, and you don't have to give me an answer now, and also people are following on Facebook. Supreme Court said we can start meeting. So it's not fair to single out places of worship when other places have been wide open. So the question is, looking for a starting time, and I'm thinking to start at Shavuot. And my thinking is that Shavuot falls on a Monday, the daytime, and we would do the Yizkor and then have a picnic lunch. Everybody bring their own lunch, and maybe make that as a way of marking Shavuot. And then I would like to know, and you don't have to answer me now, but also people following on Facebook, if you would join in, be willing to come back to shul on a regular basis. And again, don't have to answer now. You can send me comments or mark comments on Facebook. I'll see it, or email me. Okay, just get me your feedback. Okay, with that, I'd like to go ahead and celebrate. So I'm going back to the share screen. Open it up. And on this Yom Ha'atzmaut, what else then to start with? Hatikva, Israel Philharmonic, musical edition. Zubin Mehta conducting, the famous Zubin Mehta who built up the Israel Philharmonic into what it has become today. Claim to fame, one of the grandchildren was a student of ours. Okay, well, now I'm going to give a second to talk about my own connection with Israel. I'm pulling up something here very briefly. I don't want to go into too much, but some of you may know, may not know. I spent from 86 to 90 in Israel. I started out as a kind of a sabbatical year to give it a try, and ended up being appointed to run a midrashah, we call it a seminar for Jewish studies at Beit Berel, which was the college of the Labor Party under the auspices of the Histadrut, which is the labor union. And I was working under the Histadrut and under Beit Berel, both entities. And it was appointed to that position by the Secretary General of the Histadrut Yisrael Kesar. So this is the brochure that I have and the kind of activities. We had speakers in different parts of the countries, Ramat Gan, Rishon LeZion, and just pull it up. That was in Hebrew. My name there I highlight so you know that it's me in Hebrew, Nachman Norbert Weinberg. All right. And here's the English language brochure that was for their publicity for the Histadrut in the United States, so people would know what we were doing. And there you see me, Rabbi Norbert Weinberg. The theme, a call to tradition, appeal for tolerance. And it's good when you have nice picturesque relatives. So I put my wife's nephew and her uncle on the cover there also. A little bit of flavor. There's the description of the center and the Secretary General, Israel Kesar, and next to him is Zacharia Hemi, who is my direct supervisor in the Stadrut. And then here's a sample newspaper notice in a local paper in Rishon LeZion, where I organized a course. That's me in my better days. I don't look like that anymore. I had hair. And then this one, where we are preparing for the Seder Pesach at Beit Berel. That's me and the supervisor at Beit Berel, who I worked under at Beit Berel, Mobi Amirav. And you have no idea what it is to kosher 300 sets of dishes for Pesach. New sets, they have to be taken to the mikveh.
Yeah.
Wash one by one because we wanted to make it kosher for everybody. Very, very. And you go in, you supervise koshering a kitchen. The rabbi involved comes in. He puts his hand under the tables, and out comes a pile of dough. He says, "You guys didn't clean under the tables." When you're baking dough, you wipe your hands on the tables. He knew it. Oh boy, what a job. So anyway, other curiosity, my next door neighbor, I shared an office space next to retired Colonel Tzvika Levanon, who was one of the founders of Nachal. That's the borderline defense of Israel, where there sit villages, agricultural villages, with Israeli soldiers as the farmers. And he had been one of the founders of that. It was very unique to the Israeli army. And here's me at one of the seminars, workshops. This was on science and religion. There's me, nice in a suit and tie. Nobody in Israel wears a suit and tie, including all the heads of the Stadrut, but I have a suit and tie. Okay, that is the head of the Stadrut, Yisrael Kesar. Later on, left the Stadrut to become Minister of Transportation for Israel and was almost in line for the prime minister. In the primaries he ran, but didn't quite make it. Against Peres and Rabin. Let's go ahead then. Here's some flyers that were in Israeli papers about the conference and organized by me, and they mentioned the name of one of the other organizers, Avram Becher, another one of the people who shared office space near me, who had been one of the Nazi hunters. Not sure if he was one of the team that worked on Eichmann specific, but he was one of the teams sent to hunt the Nazis. So I had nice neighbors in my office space, interesting neighbors. Got to know the head of the man in charge of the West Bank. His father had been the head of the Israeli Communist Party. He was involved in the Labor Party. Forgot his name, escapes me. Got to sit with Shimon Peres in his office, was on the platform together with the late Rabin, and with the chief rabbi of Israel, right? So it was a nice position. I got to bring in guest speakers. There's me, again, I say my better days, still younger looking, with Professor Yeshayahu Leibovich, who was one of the gadflies of Israel's Orthodox community, brother of Nahama Leibovich. So I got to know both of them very well in this position. So that was my years of living in Israel. I was there as a student for 2 years before there, and the Hebrew University. So I just throw that in for that personal connection, right? I came back, it was going to be a temporary. I came into Hollywood Temple Bethel, and then by then kids were grown up, so it wasn't easy to move back, and there's nothing permanent like temporary, so we are here. Let's go back to Israel and the screen. Get rid of this thing here and go back now to some clips. I pulled out a series of video clips, right? I am an unabashed and unashamed Zionist. I don't care what all the woke people say about it. I don't care what let's say about it. I want to praise and give appreciation to one of the members of Congress, Richie Torres, who is very liberal, who came out in a great defense of Israel. All right, but now here, some history for us. You may have seen these in the past, but rare clips of the actual rise of the state of Israel. Going from, this was done in 1948, so it's not even, as they're doing it, notice it says Palestine Films. Who are the Palestinians? Watch this, Palestine Films. Palestinians, because Palestine meant the Jewish state. did not mean Palestine.
New York, Friday, May 14th, 1900. Assembly is in special session. Opposing the United Nations' decision to partition Palestine are the Arab states led by Syria's Faris el-Khoury. The Jewish representatives on the other side are waiting for their hour of destiny. The minutes of Britain's mandate are ticking to an end, but the 58 member nations are still deliberating over the future of the Holy Land. Here's Malek of Lebanon, who wants the United Nations to keep hands off. Cadogan of Great Britain and Trigvalee. There is no decision even as the deadline runs out. But in Tel Aviv, for the Jews of Palestine, it is a time for decision, a time to mold history for themselves. A new nation is being born. In the first Jewish city, Tel Aviv, their first Prime Minister, David Ben-Gurion, proclaims the independent Jewish state. British rule is at an end. The Jewish democratic state begins its new life in the ancient homeland of the Jews. This is what they have waited for. This is what they have prayed for. Israel they have named their state, and the new citizens of Israel cheer the men who have signed the Jewish Declaration of Independence. They leave the hall, Ben-Gurion first. Then Goldie Meyerson, woman member of the new Council of State, and Foreign Minister Moshe Sheptok. To look on this scene of rejoicing, one might not guess. On the morrow, enemy bombs will begin to fall. Chaim Weizmann becomes Israel's first president. Minutes later, electrifying news.
The United States recognizes the provisional government as the de facto authority of the new state of Israel.
Across the United States, May 14th is a day of celebration. Within minutes after the declaration, in New York, Washington, Detroit, friends of Israel are singing and dancing in the streets to greet the historic moment. In the nation's capital, the festivities go on outside Israel's legation. In London, home of the British Colonial Office, there is rejoicing at the Jewish Agency building. But nowhere else, perhaps, does the news mean as much as in the infamous DP camps of Europe. Here, survivors of the former Nazi murder mills are waiting. For the internees of Cyprus, it is also 0 hour. For months and years, in misery and squalor, these gallant men and women who braved Britain's sea blockade have waited behind barbed wire. Now at least the very young and the very old may sail away. The last refugees to leave under the white paper quota system of the expiring British mandate head for the Holy Land. The flag of Israel now flies openly from the Kedma, as once it did unrecognized from the Exodus, free unafraid. It sails for the new country with an all-Jewish crew.
This way?
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, as the echoes of Ben-Gurion's voice ring out in the Tel Aviv square, other refugees from the DP camps of Europe return in triumph. These are the first to arrive as free citizens of the new state. Hundreds of thousands more will follow. They are home. A dream of centuries is near fulfillment. Free return to their ancestral land. But around them there are ominous portents, the sights and sounds of war. Israel is under attack from all fronts. The 5 nations of the Arab League, in defiance of the United Nations decision, have declared war on the little republic. Jerusalem is besieged, supplies of food and water cut off by Transjordan's Arab Legion. The new state is born in fire. On its borders, the regular armies of 5 Arab states are massed, poised for the invasion. Jewish civil defense guards check all transportation and screen all passengers. The heroic defenders of Jerusalem organized to meet the ever-growing threat to their city. For a long time, they had lived on intimate terms with the invaders' cunning warfare. The bomb cleverly concealed in the house wiring, or in a military truck touched off by the self-starter. Here, an ambulance wantonly attacked. Many were the sacred scrolls rescued from burning synagogues. And today, the invaders wait to enter Jerusalem's old city. King Abdullah of Transjordan and his British-trained and equipped Arab Legion. And at their head, Brigadier John Glubb. The war in this one small battle sector halts, while an Arab offers a child a plaything, a hand grenade. Inside these walls, a handful of 200 Haganah defenders fought against overwhelming odds. This was their corregidor, and still the fight goes on. British John Glubb, surnamed Pasha, self-appointed Arabian knight, enters the old city to survey his conquest. The Pasha is well satisfied with what he sees. The sacking of Old Jerusalem, sacred to 3 great faiths of the world, is not new. During 33 centuries of existence, it has been besieged and invaded innumerable times. But Jerusalem's destruction this time defied a decision taken by the United Nations to keep the historic city an international trust. The new modern city, with its 100,000 Jews, remains firmly in Jewish hands. The Pasha's minor victory will make good headlines in the capitals of the world. In another part of Palestine, an army is in training, the world's youngest, the Haganah. Yesterday, an underground striking force. Today, Israel's Army of Defense. Among them are the toughest fighters, the Palmach, the Israeli commandos. In Israel today, all able-bodied men and women between 18 and 35 are under arms. They will remain so until the threat to the Jewish state is removed and the United Nations' decision to create that state has been respected. Haganah, like the Maccabees of old, parades for the first time officially and in the open. Marching down the streets of modern Jerusalem, they are the good lifeblood and sinew of the Jewish state, the strong right arm of Israel. Surrounded by enemies, with her supply of arms cut off from almost every part of the world, Israel forges its own steel gauntlet for its strong right arm. The tanks and armored trucks start rolling from its own improvised assembly lines. Even the buses must be armored in the armed camp that is Palestine. For these people live on a battlefield. Their children go to school through no man's land. They ride to work amid the whine of enemy snipers' bullets. These troops are a reminder that their Declaration of Independence was no empty scrap of paper. Since the day of the Arab invasion, these fighting men have kept their borders intact. Not 1 foot of ground has been lost on any front. This they have done alone. Haganah's strength was tested and not found wanting. Castel was the climax in the Battle of the Roads, the key to Jerusalem's supply lines. Castel was won. Then came the rout of Arab armies at Mishmar HaEmek. In rapid succession, Tiberias and Haifa. They fight on, fight to keep the lifelines open. Most have had to give up their homes and farms to defend their country. Here, for the first time since Roman conqueror Titus destroyed Jerusalem in 71 AD, Israel is reborn. It is here in Israel today that the men and women of this new state are writing with their very lives the most glorious page in their long and gallant history.
Okay, yeah, it's worth for us to remember the price that was paid in order to create the state of Israel. So 6,000 people lost their lives on the Israeli side, 10,000 on the Palestinian side. The Israelis stayed put. The Palestinians did not. I say that quite bluntly. But the whole Palestinian refugee, they moved from one side of the town to the other side. That's basically it. Unlike all the 50 million refugees of World War II who moved hundreds of miles and never were returned to their lands. Okay, we put in things in perspective. Now, one of the great miracles of Israel was how people came and still come from all parts of the world, a melting pot, such as there's not been yet in Jewish history. And so a few clips, I'm just going to go one after the other to the Bricha, so we can see some of these elements. So I'm going to skip the next one and just go quickly to the end. This is the Bricha. Bricha, the movement to get Jews out of East Europe and into Germany and Austria, where they could then go through Italy to Israel, through wherever there were ships. So my mother was on the Bricha, and I show her one of these movie clips, and we're looking at these mountains and people crossing the mountains, you can see, and she's, oh, I remember this. I was there. I'm crossing this one. I'm crossing this one. And all these people then eventually go to Vienna, the Rothschild Hospital in Vienna, and that's where my uncle and my father, both who were second cousins to her, found her, and so she never made her way to Israel. They hijacked her at that point. Well, but that's good for me. Anyway, just show you this clip, what it took to get to Israel after World War II, because the British gave orders to all the other countries: do not let a single Jew get through. Do not let a single Jew get through. It was like letting plagued rats getting through. That's how they treated them. Joe, you were on the already on the Austrian side, the German area, so you were in. I could get out, but those from Poland and East Europe had to make their way surreptitiously. Well, okay, so now I'm just going to go ahead to the next one. Just a few minutes, some of the other operations. This one, let's skip forward a few minutes. This is a very short clip taking us to Iraq. Remember, there was a Nazi-like attempt in Iraq to take over during World War II, and there was major pogrom. Jews were not safe. And here we have the story. Jews of Iraq. And now, continuing in modern times, Chinese Jews. Kaifeng, the Jews
Chang Lang, Qin Qin, and Nina Wang, three Chinese Jewish women living in Israel, were waiting in the arrivals hall of Ben Gurion International Airport for 7 of their friends who were making Aliyah from China. Chang Lang went through the same experience 3.5 years ago.
I feel that I had a wonderful time. Each step after the 3.5 years, I get used to this land and get to this society, and I feel so good.
Can you tell me about your feeling now?
Oh, I'm so excited now. Also even a little bit nervous.
Actually, it's like a part of our family, but actually we don't have relatives. But still, we were studying together in Kaifeng, and we came 4 years ago, and nowadays they are coming, so it's welcome back home.
The 7 young men were warmly welcomed by their friends. They all share the same origins. They are all the descendants of the Jewish community of Kaifeng in China, which existed for 1,000 years, dating back to the 8th or 9th century.
But then a process of assimilation and intermarriage began, and essentially in the 19th century the community ceased to exist as a collective entity. The remnants of that community made great efforts to try and preserve their Jewish consciousness and Jewish identity. They passed that down from generation to generation, and in recent years more and more young people among the descendants in Kaifeng are looking to reconnect with their Jewish roots.
When did you find?
Okay, right? Jews from China. It turns out that many Jews in Europe carry DNA from Far East Asia because of the route between Europe to Asia to Kaifeng and back. Okay, so we go ahead. Another group, just recent arrivals, Falash Mora. Those were Ethiopian Jews who had converted to Christianity, were recognized back.
עולי אתיופיה, אנחנו כל כך נרגשים לקבל אתכם כאן. ברוכים הבאים לארץ ישראל, ברוכים הבאים למדינת ישראל. אתם הגעתם בטיסה ישירה מגונדר, הורים וילדים.
An Ethiopian Airlines flight landed Thursday morning at Ben Gurion Airport, carrying 316 members of the Falash Mora Jewish community.
אבל היום אנחנו שמחים, קודם כל בשמחת מאות המשפחות והעולים שהגיעו לארץ יחד איתי, נקבל אותם באהבה, נלווה אותם בתהליכי הקליטה, בתקופה מאתגרת זו.
Welcomed by the Prime Minister, Minister of Aliyah and Integration, the Defense Minister, and the Jewish Agency Chairman, the new immigrants posed for photos and waved Israeli flags as they exited the aircraft.
ואנחנו מאוד גאים, המטוסים הללו שאתה רואה מאחוריי הם כולם מטוסים שארגנה הסוכנות היהודית, מאות עובדים שעובדים שבועות להביא לכאן את העולים, ואני חייב להגיד לך, מה זה מרגש? חבל על הזמן.
Approximately 100 more immigrants from the Falash Mora community in Ethiopia will arrive on Friday, and in total the government intends to bring a total of 2,000 immigrants in total by the end of January 2021.
Okay, so that's really recent. By the way, greeting them is Herzog, Boogie Herzog, that's his nickname. His father is the head of the Jewish Agency. His father was the president of Israel, and even more famous, he was boxing champion of Ireland. Jewish boxing champion of Ireland. And then, of course, his grandfather was the chief rabbi of Ireland, later the first chief rabbi of Israel. So some history about that figure in there. And now, let's go to have fun. We're going to go ahead with the lighting part of the ceremony for the 73rd anniversary of Israel, and everybody's going to sing along. Watch this. This is the... These are doctors singing. Doctors and nurses all together. It's a Kululum style. The guy in the center, the conductor there, gathers massive groups of thousands of people together in a stadium. They all get it either on their cell phone, a piece of printed paper, and they have they do one rehearsal and that's it, and then they all start singing. So he's done that with him. Besides the magnificent audiovisual display that they had, the other thing was notice all the doctors and nurses had no masks because more and more people are vaccinated. All right, that's another reason to celebrate. Okay, so more from the torch lighting ceremony. Right, every night every Independence Day they honor citizens of Israel with lighting a torch to announce the independence of Israel. 12 lamps and there are 14 individuals. Naris Abu Yaman and Sahar Maher Ibrahim, both of them Arab Israelis, who are honored because of their service to the people. You'll hear the story of the two of them.
The male and female nurses in the hospitals, in the HMOs and public health services accompanied the anxious public throughout the year and the corona patients during their worst times. Narjas Abu Yaman is a regional nurse supervisor at the Public Health Bureau in Acre for over 30 years. She has been accompanying the children and parents of the Galilee, in addition to her tough job as a supervisor. Narjas took upon herself to lead the epidemiological investigative network in Israel. Mahir Ibrahim is the head nurse in the internal medicine department at the Ha'emek Medical Center in Aful that was converted this year to a corona patients ward 2 months ago. Mahir, a Muslim Arab, deeply touched the entire country on his deathbed by saying Shema Israel as the patient took his last breath. Narjas and Maher are a symbol of the sister and brotherhood, the fellowship between the various ethnic communities. May the torch rise. I, Narjas Abu Yaman, daughter of Faiz and Jamila Fares, and I, Mahir Ibrahim, son of Taisir of blessed memory, and Haria, may she live a long life, kindle this torch in honor of those who dedicated their lives to the nursing profession. To all the health nurses in the community and in the hospitals, the warm hearts that support and assist the Israeli health system, the patients day and night, especially during this year, in their uncompromising fight against corona. Chapeau to all of you. In honor of all the ethnic communities and traditions that compile Israel's society, for they are the roots that make us grow, the light and the warmth in our hearts, and the spirit that propels us forward. In honor of the Druze community, my parents and family who believed, and all the other families who believed that we could prevail in the war against corona, who provided us with support, encouragement, and rallied to help us when we were devoting ourselves to our patients. In honor of my family, my children, and our world and all the children, in honor of our duty to do all we possibly can, but everything, in order to build a future for them of peace, dignity, and fraternity. Salam. And to the glory of the State of Israel.
Okay. Now I wanted to go to this one other torch lighting. The fellow is 103. 103. And just for a second, I want you to see how he stands straight.
Jewish wisdom was passed down through the generations from father to son, mother to daughter. Mori Yaish Giyad is 102 years old.
102.
One of the founders of the town of Ashkelon. He connects the younger generation in his town to the tradition of his ancestors, the tradition of Torah, prayer, and hard work, the healthy mind and a healthy body, values and morals. He preserved the old traditional medical methods brought with the Jews from Yemen, following in Maimonides' medical theories. He writes and donates Torah scrolls and books to younger congregations all over Israel, and people envision him as a wise man who many come to ask for counsel. He is a living symbol in the Jewish chain of generations, linking the previous generations to those that are yet to come, and a symbol of the pioneering spirit of Yemenite Jewry, who are harbingers of a return to Zion. May the torch rise. I, Yaish, the son of Shammah and Rabbi Israel Giyat of blessed memory, am lighting this torch in honor of the Jews who made Aliyah because of Zionism, due to their belief in the Almighty and the precept of settling this holy land. In honor of my brethren, my brothers and my sisters, the glorious Yemenite Jewry that was privileged to build this holy land in humility and modesty. In honor of the unity between all hues and parts of our people. There are no religious or secular ones. We are all Jews.
Okay. It's clear, straight. Wonderful to see someone at that age speak with such power and dignity. And now let's finish up with the celebration, the grand wrap-up of the celebration.
בענווה, באהבה ובגאווה, התקווה.
המסדר ידגל את נשקו. דגל, שק!
נא לשבת.
המסדר ינוע בשדרת מסע מימין, חוליית הדגלים הראשיים מובילה. מסדר, חוצה, בני!
טוב, עם השדרת מסע הוא קצת ממציא, לא? אני מבחינתי זה לא נגמר.
שסגן אלוף שמעון דרעי לא מגיע ליושב ראש הכנסת ואומר לו, אדוני, תם הטקס.
אני מבחינתי מחכה שהמור יהיה שגיאת יגיע וימרח ערק על הבטן של יריב לוין. אולי זה מה שהוא היה צריך, כל הטקס הזה.
כל אחד מהציפיות שלו, עקיבא, כל אחד מהציפיות שלו. אבל אין ספק ששני אנשים יצאו נזכרים מהאירוע הזה מבחינה מסחרית. פייזר של בורלה וצמחי המרפא של המורי. אלפים הסתערו עכשיו על החנות שלו באשקלון, כי ראית איש בן 102 מתפקד כמו איש בן 20. כנראה שיש משהו שעובד שם בצמחים של הרמב"ם.
הוא נראה יותר טוב מאיתנו.
They're talking about the two great medical breakthroughs, Moderna, and then the 102-year-old rabbi from Ashkelon who sells medical remedies from the Rambam. His business has to be booming. March off the stage.
הדגלים הראשיים הועברו לזרוע היבשה למשמרת עד לשנה הבאה.
לחזית, שוב! לימין, שוב!
את מצעד הדגלים, כמו את הטקס כולו, מלווה תזמורת צה"ל, בניצוחו של סרן רום שמיר.
לחזית, שוב! לימין, שוב!
The women's day.
לחזית, שוב! לימין, שוב! לחזית, שוב!
לא חושבים לי שהורדתי את מפקד הטקס בדרגה?
וואה?
כן, אלוף משנה. אלוף משנה, שמעון דרעי.
שנתו החמישית.
עד נגיד 40, 120 נראה לי too much לנהל את הטקס.
משמר הכנסת עכשיו מפנים את הרחבה וחוזרים אל הכנסת, ורק הרס"ר המיתולוגי יוסף שבת שצעד פה בסוף שנות ה-70 פורש היום, וזהו הטקס האחרון שלו.
לא, אבל הם לא חוזרים עכשיו לכנסת.
אני מקווה שלא.
עקיבא 9:45 בערב, אני מקווה שהם חוזרים הביתה.
זה לא שיש שם הרבה עבודה בימים אלו.
לך תדע, אולי דווקא בגלל שאנשים ידעו שמשמר הכנסת אינו בבית, אנשים יעלו עכשיו על המשכן.
למה לא מעבירים את קרן היער למשמרת לתזמורת אחרת? הרבה שאלה.
מה עושים בזמן הזה בעצם? מזכירים את הציוד הזה? למקהלות אחרות, לקונסרבטורים אחרים?
רב נגד יורם שמחון.
אחלה יורם. מה עושים עם שמעון דרעי בין הטקסים?
לו רק היינו מצליחים להשיג רעיון בלעדי עם האיש.
אולי הוא שומר על הדגלים.
מישהו צריך. טוב, מסכמים טקס מוצלח מאוד החבר'ה האלה.
כן. רגע, עשיו מסיע המשואות. ללא ספק.
אדוני, תם הטקס. אדוני.
אלוף משנה שמעון דרעי, תודה רבה לך ולכל העוסקים במלאכה. טקס מרהיב, כל הכבוד לכם. יום עצמאות שמח ישראל.
כל הכבוד.
אנו מודים לראש הממשלה בנימין נתניהו ולרעייתו הגברת שרה נתניהו שכיבדו את הטקס בנוכחותם.
באמת לא הרגשנו.
And happy ending.
טוב, על רקע הזיקוקים הללו שממלאים את שמי הר הרצל בירושלים, רבינוביץ' ידידי, חברי ורעי, נחזיר את השידור למיכל רבינוביץ' אשר בירושלים, פה ליד.
אסף ליברמן, תודה לך, תודה לעמי עמר, המפיק ש...
Okay. I hope you had a little feel.
Rabbi, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Can you tell us in English who was Shimon Deri?
Shimon Deri, so he is the master of ceremonies from the army's end, the man who's coordinating the marching in, the marching out. And what they mentioned was that he, if I heard it correctly, he had been doing this for several years, and I think he was retiring from this. That's more or less what I picked up. Yeah, so that's his position. So he closed the ceremony officially on behalf of the army.
Thank you.
Right.
Oh God.
Right. And the two announcers that you hear talking all the time, they're chatter on the side. You can't stop Israelis from chattering. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so we'll continue next week. We'll continue. I want to talk about. We'll go into our theme of some unusual Jewish communities again, and also great Jewish minds of contemporary times. That's coming up. So I wish everybody Shabbat Shalom. We had a good reason to celebrate. I hope all those who are watching on YouTube and Facebook that you enjoyed it. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.